he's an amazing storyteller. And I think one of the best of certainly our generation.
A lot of people ask me, like, what's it like working with like Johnny Depp or Tom Cruise or, you know, these people. And at the end of the day, what it really is like.
You're listening to Studio 22. Welcome to Studio 22. I'm Brock O'Hearn. I'm sitting with my co-host Will Meldman, and we're sitting with the legend, our great friend Tyler Thompson. How's it going, man?
Thank you, man. Thank you. We're good. How are you guys?
Good, man. How's it been, man? You Nashville a lot for music, right?
Yeah. So, you know, we signed the record deal back in February of this year. And we, started stopping over in Nashville on the way to either New York or Los Angeles. And so I love Nashville. I've met a bunch of really great people who you guys obviously know through Troubadour over there and just through, just mutual friends of ours. And, the community is great. It's not that different than movies, I guess. I've been in movies for like 20 years, I guess now, and almost 20 years. Everyone's just been super sweet. It's not as cutthroat as the movie business. At least I don't think so. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's like definitely the one thing about Nashville. When, we did a bunch of episodes out there and we're talking to people like Shay Mooney and Brett Young, and they all have like this profound respect for Nashville as a location. Just like, growing up playing there and kind of coming out there to, change their careers and like talking about how it did. So like that's, I would assume that's probably the best place to go. So that's awesome that you're spending so much time there.
Like they have the Grand Ole Opry there, and, guys that are like super, super true country Tennessee boys, and the ladies too. I mean, their like dream is to go play the Grand Ole Opry one day. I frankly didn't know what the Grand Ole Opry was until I music business, and I realized, what it was. And so I started doing the research on like what it was all about, and like it's pretty amazing, like what it stands for, and like just like it's just like Hollywood, I guess. Like people are driven by certain things in Hollywood, and there's a respect for things, and there's the way people do things. It's the same in Nashville. I mean, it's like it's there's a lot of cohesiveness, I guess, between both businesses. Which I'm coming to realize that more on the music side now.
That's awesome. Did you always know that because I know you've always been into music and, you're a guitar player, right? And everything. Did you know that this is the path you want to go on?
No, I mean, I always wanted to do it. So I like it, at the end of the day, like, I think, how like you kind of find a career, both of you are the same way. It's like you kind of find something, you stumble into it, and you find out, oh, I'm actually really good at this. Like I'm going to continue doing this, and it's going to be a career for me. That was kind of like movies. It's like I didn't go to film school. I didn't do any of the necessary steps to get to the film business. I just kind of like jumped into the deep end with my eyes closed without floaties, and somehow someone saved me and brought me to the top. So the movie business just kind of like it just evolved super fast for me, especially after Black Swan and those movies that followed after it, and I always played guitar. All of my heroes were really musicians and stuff like that. And, after 15 years of being in the movie business, I was just like, in the pandemic, I was like, let's maybe try something a little different, same idea, which was like the storytelling aspect, which I do love the storytelling aspect of like, making a movie and telling the story from the script. And, this is a little different. It's more microwaved. And this is something that, I'm in front of the camera now, I guess, as opposed to, the other way where I was kind of controlling things behind the camera.
Yeah.
It is interesting too, how kind of like the last 2 to 3 years have, forced people to really kind of like explore other creative options, right? It's like we had all this time like to ourselves or with our families to like really think about what's important and like experiment and kind of try other stuff. And it's amazing too, because like if you think of, just your incredible career in film, and then it's like it's a pretty harsh transition, just like boom, right into music. But like it's so fun to see you do it. And like, I was watching Won't Take Long. I mean, I was like, you never would have guessed that it's like the beginning of a career, because I loved it, but.
Well, I mean, look, it's not all that different than what you guys are doing now, right? So like you're all you have like your skill sets that have got you to where you are now. And like, I would imagine, when did you guys start the podcast? This is relatively new, right? I mean,
it is, yeah. Basically February this year. Yeah. 2022.
Yeah. February this year. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, if you're prepared to like just take on life at the different junctures of whatever business it is, like, it's just different. It's all the same skill set. It's just how you apply it to whatever you're doing. And you guys are obviously doing extraordinarily well with the podcast. I mean, what is this?
Yeah, I don't know how many. We've probably filmed close to 50 now, but I think
it's a good sign that we lost count.
Yeah.
But no, it's a credit.
How many movies I've made? I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah. No, I'm in the same boat when people ask me like, "Whoa, how many have you done?" And I'm like, "What did I do, man?" Like, which is a good problem to have, right? But
that's great.
It's fun.
It's a credit to being able to talk about stuff with people like you, man. It's all the guests, and we've been extraordinarily lucky to have cool people on. So it's been really fun.
We've known each other for a long time now. I mean, Will, we met you in Baker's with your family when I was down there with my family. And
Baker's Bay, yeah.
I forgot when we met. We met you like right around that same time. I remember you and Harry knew each other. And for some reason, my oldest kid was running around naked on his plane or something.
Yeah. That was a funny trip. We went to, was that the time we went to the festival out there, Jazz Fest?
That's right.
Yeah, he talked us into going out there, and it was such a good time, man. Like, Jazz Fest is so unique, and I've never been to a festival or a concert like that before, man. Because we had you got incredible music over here, and like,
it was like Stevie Wonder, and then Snoop Dogg, and then Dave Matthews.
Dave Matthews, we're front row for, exactly. And so it was just like, and just the culture and all the music around it. You got all these people playing instruments in the streets and all throughout the night, and it's just such a fun city and place to experience something like that.
It's like the opposite of like what Coachella is. Like, Coachella has all like the super plush amenities and like all of that.
No, we were trekking through some mud to get to the next stage.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Couple po' boys on the way.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome, man. So, kind of want to. Obviously we're huge fans of your work, and we love what you do, man. We kind of want to dive a little bit into the movies, and then dive a little more into the music. But dude, one of your first films, Black Swan. Tell me about that, dude. What was that experience like?
It was interesting. I mean, it was like, I had made a smaller movie prior to that. We hadn't finished it yet. And so, I had never been to Los Angeles really up until like the time whenever I found this script called Burning Palms right before Black Swan. And so while we were shooting Burning Palms, I made every mistake in the book. You know what I'm saying? Like, I found the script in the back of someone's car while I was like pitching people to cater movie sets in Los Angeles with like fake business cards and stuff. And then whenever we started Cross Creek Pictures, Black Swan was the first script that we got in from Rogue Sutherland, our agent at CAA. And I remember reading it. I think I was in like Mississippi at our hunting camp or something like that. And I was like, what in the hell is this? This is insane. And I still remember I was on the rocking chair in the front. And then I'd gotten, like, right after I'd finished it, I'd gotten a call from Darren Aronofsky, who was walking into WCW wrestling match or something like that, who had just come off of The Wrestler, the movie, with Mickey Rourke.
Great film.
Walking into WrestleMania. I don't have much time. We need Cross Creek to come in. The movie's about to shut down. I didn't, that they were like a week away from shutting the production down because the finance fell out that they had. And so what we did was we came in, we saved the production. I brought in Fox Searchlight and we made the movie for them. But yeah, I mean, they were probably like 4 or 5 days from actually shutting down and like everyone going home. And like Natalie had worked, for months on the ballet stuff.
Wow. Yeah. I can't even imagine how, dedicated she was to that because of how much work you have to put in. It's like, it's no joke when you really want to portray something and make it realistic, and someone who's as great as she is, like that would be a bummer, dude. You saved the day, man, and got rewarded for it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I mean, everyone in town had passed on that script. I mean, like that was like, we got that script because everyone else had gotten it in town and they had passed on it. You know what I'm saying? That's happened to me probably 3 or 4 different times in my career where it's like, you get the bottom of the barrel script because there's nothing else available. Either the streamers have all taken it, or, these days the streamers pick it up, or like, the studios take it. And, we were really fortunate that, you know, it really worked out for us. And Darren, I mean, like through talking to Darren about his vision of the movie, it's like coming off of The Wrestler and what he did for Mickey Rourke on that movie. It was just like, you know, the guy just was clearly on a path and it made sense, you know, and it was like, you'd had this story told before. So I think like today you see a lot of stories told over and over and over again. And so something fresh.
Honestly, too, though, with your track record with Cross Creek, you know, we talk a lot with different producers who are friends of ours, you know, ones we've had on the podcast, you know, Brian Zurif, Todd Garner, and all of them, they said, you know, to be a great producer, you have to have great taste, you know, and truth be told, if you look at Cross Creek's resume, look at your resume, you clearly have great taste because everything you do is phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
And like it's
working with the biggest stars. Absolutely.
Yeah, and everything's got this great tone, this great feel. And you tell a lot of stories that are based on, you know, real characters, right? Real people. A lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's like the search for authenticity / like relatability. I think like that's what I've at least done. Look, no one has the secret key to like what movies are going to work, which ones aren't going to work. I mean, some of my most successful movies, people thought I was stupid. Like Black Swan, people, you know, we didn't know anyone to tell us we were stupid, but if we did, they would have told us we were stupid. You know, just most recently, like Chicago 7, you know, I mean, they were trying to get that movie made with Spielberg when I was in high school, you know, and so whenever we got into it and we were kind of going through the motions with Aaron Sorkin on it, everyone, the same situation, everyone in town had passed on it. And I somehow got Paramount to give us a rent-a-system deal, and we made it. And I remember I got calls from everyone like, what are you doing? You're burning money. No one's ever going to see this movie. And frankly, it was like for worse, you know, the stars and the moon aligned on Chicago 7, where it was like all that George Floyd stuff kind of caught up. And it was like, it was a very, very relevant movie. And so we couldn't release it in theaters. And so we had to go to Netflix. So Netflix ended up, you know, buying the movie. But like, you know, at the end of the day, it's like all you could really do is, you know, there's no secret formula or anything, in my opinion. I just think it's like, just find authenticity. You find authenticity and relatability. And that's kind of the two things we've always, you know, tried to stay in the lane with.
Well, so one of your next films, I mean, I believe you went The Woman in Black and then Rush, but the film Rush, I mean, another film kind of based off real people, a real story. I mean, did you feel extra pressure on that film in order to portray those characters well and like really do them justice?
In Rush?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think enough. Well, that was a little different. I think because they were those two characters were so polarizing. I think because they were so polarizing, it was tough to miss on that. So I think like more importantly, you know, of the authenticism or the authentic characters it was the racing, because you know that both of those characters, all they really gave a shit about at the end of the day was the racing. You know, James Hunt was a ladies' man, and Niki Lauda, all he cared about was the chemistry of racing, you know. And so I think like, you know, and that, you know, that one was different than like Black Mass, for example, with like Whitey Bulger, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a character piece, you know, where Rush was more of like, how do we get the racing so authentic that people can't tell the difference? And I think Ron Howard did that. We spent tons and tons of weeks, and we, you know, Canon actually developed a new camera so that we could actually get some of these really amazing scenes that we ended up getting at the Nuremberg in Germany.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like too many films have really, you know, captured authentic racing on that scale. You know, you guys did an incredible job, and I almost felt like, you know, with Chris Hemsworth, that was one of his early films, right? And then it got a whole second life, you know, once he really blew up as well. I felt like I kept seeing Rush everywhere after that.
It's true, yeah. I mean, like whenever we made Rush, I remember Ron Howard telling me at the premiere in Toronto, because Tracking was out by this time. And we made Rush like in 2008, maybe, I think it was 7 or 8. I forgot what it was, 2007, 2008. It was before Formula One was massive in the US. I mean, now they have like Drive to Survive on Netflix, and it's like people, whatever that thing is on Netflix, people love Formula One now in the US. They had no idea what it was in 2007 whenever we made this movie. And so Tracking was in, and it wasn't really like, it wasn't going to be this amazing movie from what we all kind of knew internally. And Ron Howard's literally, he told me in Toronto, he said, you're going to be sitting at dinner with someone and they're going to say, God, Rush was my favorite movie. I watched it with my wife for the first time the other night. And you're going to want to punch them in the face because they didn't go to the theater to watch it in, the way it should be watched.
Oh,
and,
man.
Like it's like at the end of the day, if you made that movie today, we would have made money on it. It would have been successful. Yeah. But back then it wasn't so successful.
So I have a question. Have you punched anyone yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I've come really close a couple times.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny, man. Yeah, it's crazy because it's such a great film too.
Yeah, and it kept the tradition alive of your films being nominated and winning Oscars, right? I mean, it was like
no, we did. I think it was a phenomenal feat on that movie. I mean, we shot it in North London in the dead of winter. And Ron, the attention to detail on that movie was more. It was close on Hacksaw Ridge, but on Rush it was pretty damn precise on the racing side. And I would argue with anyone on that. I think.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I absolutely love that film. I remember being blown away when I first saw it, and down to like Brock was saying too, the performances, kind of launching Chris Hemsworth career really. But yeah, that fine detail on those Formula One cars and oh man, I'm gonna watch that again soon. Yep. I love that movie.
I sat down with your dad one night, and we were talking about Hacksaw Ridge.
That movie was insane though. I mean, we were shooting that in Australia, and it was we were over budget constantly on that movie. I mean, It was every day you'd wake up, be like, oh, we want more people here. We need more dirt. We need more explosives. We need more of this. We need more of that.
That's awesome. I mean, that was a fun ride. That movie was incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of it became really relevant because of gun violence and things like that. And it's you have Andrew Garfield's character as a pacifist. And so, it's that goes back to once again, for some reason, the sun, the moon, the stars line up on these movies. And it just, it makes sense for, coming out in the world, I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of flip the genre on its head and they have the hero be the medic and a pacifist, like you said, I mean, I think it's genius. And then also Mel Gibson is definitely one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. I mean, The Patriot, Apocalypto, Braveheart. I mean, it's I try to, regardless of whatever controversies there might be, I tend to separate the artist and the art. And growing up with those films, it's just, he's an amazing storyteller. And I think one of the best of certainly our generation, and films that'll last forever, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's that attention. A lot of people ask me, and Mel is in the stratosphere as well. Like you just said, a lot of people ask me, what's it like working with Johnny Depp or Tom Cruise or, these people. And at the end of the day, what it really is it's just that unwavering confidence and the unwavering search to tell a story and make a movie. And it's on it. You see it with these people. And that's why, with Mel Gibson, there will never be another Mel Gibson, because of his attention to detail, attention to story, and his attention to character. Like Braveheart. I mean, how do you build a movie? I mean, to imagine that just coming again, that just doesn't. A lot of people have tried to make Braveheart, and it doesn't work. It doesn't translate. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why Tom Cruise makes $1 billion plus on Top Gun and looks better than the 18-year-olds in the movie. I mean, it's the dedication to the craft. And it is. And it's a lot of people, I haven't really seen, I've seen it with a few of the younger directors and things like that, but I think it's still to be seen of, who's the next, what's that next group of, Tom, Mel Gibson's and, Spielberg's and all that other stuff. I'm excited to see what it is and what they come up with. But I mean, those guys, just the attention to story is
Yeah. I feel like as people, we kind of evolve, and kind of push the boundaries, and we keep on seeing what's possible, and then we go do more and more and more. So I'm very curious to think, someone like Mel Gibson, who's such a great storyteller, such a great actor, Tom Cruise, somebody who through and through is one of the most impressive actors of all time. Even with what he does in stunts alone, I'm as an actor, I'm like, I don't think I'd be jumping off that building, man. Like, that's not really on my to-do list. I'm not really wanting to do that, you know, but
not to mention like 30 times a day or like 50 times a day.
Or even just having as many licenses as that guy does, you know what I mean? He can fly anything. It's that dedication to craft, right? You know, and I think that is what, you know, makes somebody, but then also all the work that happens in between that really makes the difference between somebody who's, you know, good and somebody who's great. And those guys have it, you know?
Yeah. True. And look, there's a reason why those movies, you know, when people think back, I don't care who you are, everyone knows Braveheart. You know, there hasn't been another one like it. Everyone knows Top Gun, knows, you know, the whatever one, you know, Johnny Depp's got a bunch of them. But I mean, like, at the end of the day, there's a reason why those guys are who they are. And it's like, it's not luck for sure. It's like, it's 100% attention to detail, man. It's, you know, and it's, you know, I love it. And that's what keeps me going back to the well, to work with people like Darren Aronofsky, or, you know, hopefully maybe one day Mel Gibson again, or Tom, or something like that. But yeah, you know, Tom Cruise is actually going to space for his next movie.
Yes.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, I heard that. It's gonna be the first film ever shot in space, right?
Yeah, first movie. He's going to the ISS for 35 days to shoot this thing. It's insane.
Dude.
I mean, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be him, right? I mean, that makes sense.
That is awesome. Like, that's his. What else do I want to do? Like, how far can I go? I've done pretty much everything. Oh, let's go to space. He's going to be the first guy to shoot a movie on Mars, man.
Yeah, I know. That'll be Mission Impossible 12 or 13.
Right? Yeah. The last mission.
Button, because he keeps that he doesn't age for some reason.
Dude, right?
Speaking of Tom Cruise, on American Made, I mean, I'm assuming he did all his stunts, but like, how much of it did he do? And like, I know there's like a lot of plane flying and all that. What was that like?
He did all of it, man. I think, like, you know, he even was in the helicopter shooting some stuff with Alan Perwin, who ended up passing away on the movie in a plane crash out in Colombia. But yeah, I mean, like, he was more involved with every aspect of this movie that I've ever seen an actor be involved with. I mean, all the way down to like how fast the background kids were riding bikes and stuff like that, background and stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, he flew all the planes. Yeah, I mean, it was just like literally every night, just talk about like attention to story. Like, we would wrap, and then we would, you know, everyone would go to his house and look at the pages for the following day, the next day, rehearse, and they would also rewrite scenes. Every single day we'd wrap. And so it was like the constant, he was living with the writer and the director, Gary Spinelli and Doug Liman. Doug Liman did Jason Bourne, and
wanted to keep him close.
Yeah. And it was literally like, it's just like so much attention to detail with him. And he did everything on that movie, all the stunts. I mean, there weren't a ton of stunts, but I mean, he, like, you know, he flew all the planes and did all that other stuff.
And on like any normal film with any normal actor, I mean, that would be considered a bunch and a lot, but like.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Like, if
it's all relative, right? I just a total random funny moment, but like, I remember the first TV show I was ever shooting, they put me on a motorcycle and they wanted me to pull into the diner and then get off the bike and go in. And I don't know who checked this bike before I got in, and I've never had this happen in my life before, but I pulled up and I make this left turn and my handlebars go from down here to up here in the middle of the turn. and I parked I somehow controlled it, didn't fall off, right? And pulled in the spot next to it. And then I go inside, you know, because I was supposed to be in the closer one, and then I ended up in the one next to it. And afterwards, you know, it was Tyler Perry's show. He's like, why'd you do that? You know, you should have been in that spot over there. You know, like, what happened? Yeah. I'm like, I almost crashed, dude. I was like, the handlebars went up and almost flipped me off the bike. It was the most random thing, but it's funny because, like, you never know what's going to happen with stunts, and it really just puts it in perspective of being safe, you know, and there's got to be a safety element there.
Dude, on our horror film, I drove a pickup truck through glass lobby doors, like these giant lobby doors that were all made of glass. And like, we're sitting there like, who's going to do the stunt? And I'm like, as the EP, I'm like, well, I don't want anyone doing it. If I'm, you know, liable for everyone, I want everyone to be safe. I'll do it. Like, if anyone gets hurt, it'll be me. Like, but you know, it was nothing obviously on the level of like a major movie star or Tom, but it was kind of cool.
No, it was pretty, it was a very like hurrah moment. Very, very crazy.
Drove the truck,
dude. Well, there was like a 20-foot, 30-foot ledge right on the other side of it, but he had to clear the corner for the scene.
He had to ram through it and then stop and turn. But I had to do it before you guys turned the corner.
Yep.
So it was like on a clock, on a turn.
But honestly,
then the axe.
All the glass broke. It's this hurricane glass, this 20, 30-foot like glass doors in the front. And as soon as you got around the corner, everyone was like, you could hear a pin drop because you're like, did he drive off the edge? Like, what's happening? Is Will okay? Like everyone's freaking out right now, dude. And then it was an awesome moment after the fact, and then crushed it.
We have to like, they're breaking out of the hotel, so Brock throws an axe like through a glass door, and we took like 30 minutes with the entire crew to like debate whether or not we should do it. Like, is it going to bounce back? Is the glass going to break? Like all this, everyone was so nervous. Brock's like, guys, I got this, and like he just takes this giant axe. I swear to God, like not only did it shatter like instantly, but it rolled maybe 100 yards like into the parking lot, and we like lost the axe. It went so far.
Yeah, everyone got in my head that it wasn't going to break. You know, it's hurricane glass, and you could hit a
tough to break.
It wouldn't break, right? Yeah. So they gave me this big sledgehammer, this big axe, and everyone's in my ear. You're not going to break it. It might bounce back. We have to do like freaking out for like an hour, man. I'm like, I was like, guys, we had one take, but I'm like, just let me throw this damn thing. You know, like I'm ready to throw it. Yeah, and we threw it, and we couldn't find it for like 20 minutes after the scene, dude. And they were like, "Oh, it's on the other side of the parking lot."
It was gone.
It was hilarious, man.
Well, but people are just so nervous. Like, safety's obviously the top thing. So everyone's just so anyone getting hurt, whether it be a movie or a construction site or whatever it is. But like, Tom, like speaking to Tom, the guy just goes that extra 1,000 yards to make sure that it's so safe.
Yeah.
Everything like from like hanging off the side of a plane with that guy. I mean, he was showing me where like a pebble had come up right before takeoff or something. A pebble had shot up from one of the wheels on the plane and clipped him like right here. And it's like literally like a thing like indented in his like body. It's insane. It's like,
wow.
You don't think about that. Cause I mean, I ride my motorcycle a lot, and I'll get hit by a rock every now and again. And I'm like, dude, it's like you're going an extra, let's say 75, 80 miles an hour towards it, and it's hurling towards you. Who knows how fast that thing hits you? I can't imagine on a plane taking off.
Going like 300 miles an hour.
Yeah, 400. It's insane.
Crazy.
What an animal, dude. That's so awesome.
Act at the same time. It's like, I just can't fathom. It's absolutely insane.
Well, I kind of on the same subject. Like I was at CinemaCon and I saw a behind the scenes thing on Tom for like Mission Impossible 8 or 7 or 8, and he basically like the directors and the producers were watching him on the monitors, and he did like the motorcycle base jump thing, I think like maybe 30 times that day, and then he jumped out of a plane 15 times that day, and like you could just see the producers and the director on the monitor just like every single time he does it. So I'm like, I mean, at that level, it just must be crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially like given something happens to someone on set, it's a $200-300 million movie, you're in production. At the end of the day, it's stakes are so high, and it's just like using US government planes. So that's, there's just so much shit that happens if something goes wrong on,
especially if it happens to your lead actor, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
I want to talk a little bit more about your song "Won't Take Long," man. What was the inspiration behind that, and did it take you a long time to write that and come up with it, and what's next?
So that's one of the songs on the record. So I have 14 songs on the record. I co-wrote 4 songs on the record. This one was written by a guy named Will Hogue, who's from Nashville. He's from Franklin, Tennessee, actually. And he wrote that song. Like he wrote a few different songs for some country bands and stuff like that. But I've known him forever. I've known him since I was like 15 years old. I guess I'd met him when he was playing music down here in New Orleans. And he was like my first phone call when I wanted to, go make a record. I called a friend of mine, Mark Broussard, who's a singer down in Lafayette, who I think Brock. And I was like, hey, I need to come up with some really great country songs. I need someone to co-write with and someone to give me some stuff that they've already written. And he gave me Will Hogue's number. I called Will and gave him the spiel. I was like, listen, if you can give me some songs, I can get these things on the radio. I can get a record deal and it's going to work. I had no fucking idea what I was talking about. And he was just like, He's like, okay. He's like, all right. He probably thought I was nuts. And then he ended up sending me, I was actually at Yellowstone Club, at Y'all's Place, Yellowstone Club, like a year and a half ago. And he had sent me over these like 10 songs or something like that I just loved, some demos. And I ended up just like working on that. When I got home, I ended up just working on these demos at this bar called Tipitina's in New Orleans, and worked out the choruses, changed a lot of stuff up. And the next call was essentially to Steve Jordan, who plays drums for the Rolling Stones now. And he's producing their next record. He produced like John Mayer's stuff,
Oh, wow.
Sheryl Crow and stuff like that. He's a phenomenal drummer, one of my favorites, and an amazing producer. And so we just had some conversation over the course of like 4 or 5 months about what we're going to do with the record. I had never sang before. And so at the end of the day, I was like, I had to learn how to sing. I was like, I could either bring someone to sing for me, but what's the fun in that?
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time just talking about what the record was going to sound like and creating a sound before we actually went in the studio to cut it. And, the goal was to essentially take these demos, write some, but also take some of the demos that I had from my pal, Will Hogue, and really create a real rock record like Petty did with his first record. I don't know if it was Damn Torpedoes, whatever one the Petty record was first, but I was really loving that at the time. And so I think like we just set out to create a sound that, that didn't sound like anything today. And I think we kind of ended up through the process of the last year and a half, like creating this sound that kind of sounds like Mellencamp and Petty and, those guys, like what was great about country in the 80s and 90s and stuff. And so, I ended up signing a deal with Sony Nashville, and, Won't Take Long is the first single. It came out this past Friday.
Yeah, man. I probably listened to it 10, 20 times a day, every day since, dude, honestly.
I literally find myself on like these like Spotify. It's like I feel the same way when I release a movie. Like that opening weekend that I did when I released the song, I was like sitting there watching the numbers, like how many people are listening to it on Spotify and Amazon and Apple Music and stuff. And you could see that stuff in real time now, like who's like listening to the song.
That's awesome.
I had like the same amount of anxiety as I do on the movie side. When the movie, I'm like, shit. I was like, I thought I wouldn't care as much.
Oh, that's so funny, dude.
You must find like when you're the one kind of singing and playing guitar that there is this kind of extra level of vulnerability as an artist and a creator, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like, when we'd get a shit review on a movie, it would be like, when Rolling Stone would say Pride, Prejudice, and Zombie gets, 0.5 stars, I'd be like, at least try. But like if someone gave me a 0.5 star on the song, I'd be like, what the fuck? I don't know if I'd leave the house for 2 weeks.
It's another reason to punch somebody in the face, man.
Exactly.
Man. So 14 songs. Do you know when you're going to release the new ones? The rest of the album?
The next song on the record is going to come out in the next 30 days. So we're going to let Won't Take Long kind of do its thing. We're on some good playlists on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple right now. And the plan is to kind of like organically, I guess, grow the foundation. I mean, like I literally have I've got like 1,400 Instagram followers. It's like basically like my mom, my grandma, and a couple of my buddies from like Houma, Louisiana. And like, so whenever we turned the lights on this music thing, no one knew that I was a musician, obviously. And I wasn't an overwhelmingly like, celebrity-ish like producer on the film side. I kind of kept my head down and just went to work. And so like when we turned the lights on this, it was like people were like, wait a minute, he plays music? And so it's like I'm still building that foundation. And I think, organically over the next 6 to 8 months before we release the record, we're going to play some shows maybe with the Wallflowers who we're talking to right now.
Wow.
Yes, we want to do some stuff later this fall, some festivals next year, and just kind of, grow the cause, I guess, if you will, and try and just, get out there as much as possible, do things like this with pals of mine, like you guys, keep going with it.
Well, the music will speak for itself. That's for sure. I mean, it's amazing, and you'll get it out there.
Yeah, Thanks. Man, it's cool. That's one thing that me and Will talk about a lot, and Will's become a writer in this last, in the last year, and we've done a comic book together, and now we've got the podcast, and always exploring different avenues of creativity and storytelling. So anytime we have a friend or anybody really, but especially a friend who we're already a fan of your work and what you do, and now you're finding this new outlet for creativity and storytelling and just everything with the music that you're doing. it just gives us another thing to root for you for, man. And like, we're so stoked to see what you're doing. The music's amazing already. Your family's fired up, dude. Like I was talking to Michael, he's like, dude, Tyler kind of came out of left field with this, man. We didn't even know, you know?
It's inspiring.
Very confused about it. They're like, wait, what are you doing now? What is this? Are you going to play live?
But dude, I think that's a testament to who you are as a person as well, in the sense of like, you know, even with filmmaking, you took a risk, you know, making this first film, going and doing it and flying to LA, sneaking into parties, doing what you had to do. And it paid off, man. It's the same. I think it's gonna be the same exact thing as it already is. You know, you got to deal with Sony and your music's you already got an album made. It's freaking awesome, bro.
Thank y'all so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's fun. You know, it's just perpetuating storytelling, as you guys said. And it's, you know, it's all the same skill set. It's just applying it a little differently. This time I'm on the other side of the table, you know, the other side of the table in a very long time. I find myself like groveling, like I'll do anything if I can just get on a great Spotify playlist. Just let me know what it is. But it's awesome. Fun. I enjoy being at the bottom of the hill and, you know, having to work my way up. And it's, you know, I'm still relatively young. I'm like 36 years old. So, I do have kids though. So like, you know, it's a second job. It'll help pay the light bills, hopefully one day.
There you go.
Absolutely, man. And it is inspiring, you know, like crossing over into other mediums and just creating. And, you know, I think it's great for people to hear like how much you enjoy it and that genuine passion for it, and just like inspiring people to, you know, explore a creative outlet if they really feel that strongly about it, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious with your kids, how have they taken to you, you know, going on this journey now, this path?
So I've had like Won't Take Long's been mixed and mastered now for a little while. And I've played it for them probably 7 billion times. My daughter, the youngest, is like, she can't stand my music. Like she's like she absolutely hates it. But the boys, actually, they have a lot of fun with it. One of them like sings it in the back seat and stuff like that. So it's a lot of like, you know, it's a little something different, and, you know, you got to keep people guessing. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's hopefully it'll show my kids that, you know, you can do anything you put your mind to.
Yeah, man. I've always been a fan of singing and country music as well. And how difficult was the journey of learning how to sing, or was it just going at it and
it was tough?
Yeah. I've heard story, because that's something I want to do one day, even if it's for a film or something like that. But I can imagine. Yeah,
even if it's for a film. I mean, like, you know, most people, you know, that take on those big musical roles. I mean, Brock, you wouldn't take on a musical role unless you knew you had it, you know, vocally, I'm sure, because of just like how quick you have to like figure out how to sing. But that's a grueling process. And a lot of that is operatic and stuff like that. So it's more finely tuned than the shit that I do. And I mean, no, it was tough. It was grueling. It was like a year and a half of learning how to sing. Like I would drop the kids off at 8 a.m. I'd come back, and while like the wife was working out, I was like practicing vocal lessons on the piano with this guy like almost every day.
Wow. Before
LA would wake up. And, you know, it was tough, man. It was pretty brutal. A couple of times I screamed at the kids and I lost my voice completely.
Oh, no.
3 months ago, I guess it was. I was like, oh, I guess my career's over. Because I lost my voice for like a month or something like that. I think one of the kids took a toy and threw it at another one, and I screamed. And I was like, whoa, my vocal cords are blown. I've never had to see. But yeah, it's tough, man. It's grueling. It definitely is. But it's like we worked. Steve Jordan and I worked really hard to not just sing the songs, but like create a sound in the vocal that's not necessarily a phenomenal vocal. It's not by any means a phenomenal vocal, but what it is, it's like it's a good enough vocal that tells the right story, and it's believable. And it's all about making it believable, I think. You know, I'm never going to be Elle, but, you know, maybe one day I'm almost as good as Levon Helm in telling stories in these songs. And that's kind of what I'd love to do.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'd love to hear that, man. I've had some friends who could not sing to save their life before and did exactly what you're doing, and then they become phenomenal. And I'm like, how did you go from tone deaf to incredible? Like, it's mind blowing to me, you know. And you see that with like Ed Sheeran, you know. He played some. I've seen some interviews of him playing tracks of him singing before, and it was like, ooh. And now he's, you know,
it's true.
It's impressive, man. Yeah,
dedication to it, and it's confidence too. Like it's like rock. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you have to, there's that unwavering confidence that you have to have. And because it shows on screen,
Oh yeah,
you can
everything.
That unwavering confidence, and you could tell the ones that are not so confident about themselves. And same with singing. The same with singing.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking at it from an outside perspective for you, man, and you know, starting with producing films, and now you're moving into singing, songwriting, and now you're a musician. It seems like the natural next progression after this step is going to be acting in front of the camera, man.
I know.
That's awesome.
And look, when the article came out, actually, I think Billboard had released that I signed the record deal, whatever it was. And I got a ton of calls because the headline said like shifts from, you know, transitions from movie producer to now just country music. Like, are you quitting making movies? Do you not make movies anymore? I was like, no. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I've got a movie coming out later this year. And
speaking of, what can you tell us about the upcoming projects?
Yeah, so we have this movie called The Pale Blue Eye with Netflix that we shot around West Point up in New York and Pittsburgh, and it's based on a book. It's with Netflix and Christian Bale starring. Harry Melling stars as Edgar Allan Poe, but you know the premise is essentially back in the 1800s. It's set at West Point. This retired New York detective is hired to go solve a series of murders. Some cadet murders over there. And when he gets there, he befriends a young cadet who the world would soon come to know as Edgar Allan Poe. And Edgar Allan Poe was actually a cadet at West Point during this time. And so the characters in the movie were real historical characters. Just the plot and everything is fictional. And it's an amazing, you know, murder mystery type thing, but it's got some really deep undertones and it's good. It's one of my favorites that I've ever made. I mean, Christian Bale is one of the best actors of our time. I mean, like, you know, so to work with him, phenomenal. And Scott Cooper, I made Black Mass with, and he's a good friend of mine. Scott did Crazy Heart. He made Black Mass with me, with Johnny Depp. And so now, you know, we made this together.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. We coming out January 6th. Netflix.
January 6th, Netflix?
Well, I am very much looking forward to that. That's for damn sure. Yeah. Christian Bale and man, Edgar Allan Poe. 1800. That's like right up my alley.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's a big whodunit. It's like there's like a witch hunt in the middle of it. It's a lot of fun. Wow. A lot of fun.
That's going to be awesome, man. We're definitely looking forward to that. How was it shooting something in the 1800s, you know, a film?
It was amazing. It was like, you know, I've shot in a lot of different time periods. I shot movies 4 different time periods, but like, I guess working in that time period in the 1800s, especially at West Point, everything's so historical. And like, you have to make sure that, you know, no differently than Rush, that it's depicted exactly right. You know, the marching has to be right. The songs have to be right. All that other stuff has to be right. And so, you know, just working with a director like Scott Cooper, who's so you know, has so much attention to detail, you know, just the planning for this was absolutely insane. And West Point actually consulted with us on the movie. So we got to visit West Point and hear all about, you know, all their, you know, all of the history there and all that other stuff and see the campus. And that place is amazing. I don't know if you've ever been there, but West Point, if you ever get a chance to go, it is something to see. I mean, it's amazing. Wow. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
So West Point, I mean, that's like the premier like university for, is it like a ROTC program or is it like it's for military training, right? Is it like officer training or is Army training?
Army training. Yeah. So, you know, you go into that school, you know, and you technically don't leave. You don't have weekends off. You can't go out to eat at night. It's like when you go there, I don't care if it's to play sports or if it's just to go into the Army. It's like you're there working for a common goal. And you don't, I think maybe I'm wrong. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's not until your senior year you could actually leave to go off campus and go to vacation and do whatever you want. And that's only like 3 or 4 times a year or something like that. Oh. It's like a year-round grind. I mean, there's a reason why the Army is what it is today. I mean, it's just like, you know.
I was going to say, if it's training our, you know, future bravest and brightest in the Army, it's got to be pretty spectacular to be there.
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, I wouldn't have lasted on the plane ride there, I think.
Yeah, man.
I like being in entertainment for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt. But those people go through a hell of a lot, and it's pretty amazing. But yeah, they consulted on the movie, and it shows. It's like really, it's amazing. I can't wait to show you guys.
Yeah, we can't wait to see it, man. Are there any stories that you're dying to tell one day that you haven't told yet, or you kind of just?
I've always had like 6 or 7 movies kind of like circling all at any given time, and it's just all about like right place, right time. There's a bunch of there's a Western, that takes place in 1910 during the Mexican Revolution.
Oh,
and,
wow.
This guy is hired to take a truckload of guns down to the oil fields in Mexico to protect the U.S.'s interest over there. And so it's like him going through the Mexican Revolution, like the scariest place in the world. But yeah, so that's one. And there's always a bunch of them that have kind of always like trailed behind me for the last like 6 or 7 years or so that I'm trying to make.
That's awesome, man.
Love that. Did you catch the Emmys last night by any chance?
I didn't. I saw some highlights. I saw Zendaya one, and then I saw the guy from Succession said some shit. Did you see that?
I think it was one of the last ones. Was that it?
Well, for the like outstanding drama, but
yeah.
Did you see Jimmy Kimmel get dragged out by Will Arnett?
No.
He was like doing this whole joke that he was like drunk backstage, and Will Arnett just dragged him out, and he like didn't even get up, he just laid on the floor. I thought that was pretty funny. Will Arnett's like, he's getting into the margaritas. I'm like, hopefully it's Casa.
That's hilarious.
Everyone Casamigos now. It's amazing.
Oh no, for sure. Man, but we were, I mean, obviously because of, Brock's participation in Euphoria, we were hoping they'd walk away with, the outstanding drama series. But, Succession's a great show and, great job to them. But
I think Euphoria still clocked, I think, six Emmys, man. So like,
and a ton more nominations. Yeah.
No, that's a good spot.
There's some, I mean, that's kind of like even when they show the outstanding drama, I'm like, that is some stiff competition because every one of those shows is incredible.
They all are. TV is so different than it was 20 years ago. I mean, the content on television, Euphoria, Succession, Yellowstone. I mean, like those are like movies. I mean, like you have some in the world on those things, and they're smart. They're really clever. I mean, they're not good shows anymore. I mean, these things are really clever.
Yeah, and I think that's what it takes now to really draw people in and get you hooked. Before it was kind of like there wasn't as much out there, but I feel if you can really engage somebody now, that's what's going to hone you in and keep you now and keeping that audience member going. Because if you lose the story now, if you're not staying true to the story and storytelling as a whole, there's something else out there that maybe will grab your attention, And it's always fun looking for those things too, not only as a viewer, audience member, but also to be attached to as an actor or producer. You really want to tell great stories, and that's kind of why we're doing what we're doing, right?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt, man. There's no doubt. Attention to craft, man. That's what it is.
That's it.
And I love hearing that about the greats too. Like, some of the people I appreciate and love their work the most from, Tom and Johnny and Mel, like everyone we've discussed, it's like that attention to detail. I love how you said that because, everything on the frame can be controlled and like manipulated. And like, Stanley Kubrick on The Shining, like every little thing had meaning, right? Like a chair in the background, like even you said, the speed of the bicycles in the background is like, made sure to be controlled. And I love hearing that because I think every aspiring filmmaker should understand that and know that going into it is you can never prepare enough. And like, there's so much filming going on that the more detailed you can be, the better. And I love hearing that the people I'm such a big fan of and have been my whole life focus on that as well.
It's true. I mean, like, I think like, in the 90s and the 80s and stuff, you can kind of lay it up, I'm sure, where it's like, because there weren't that many movies being played. There weren't that many movies coming out and there weren't that many movies being shot. And like now there's so much content coming out. There's so much shit. You've got to find a way to separate yourself at the end of the day. It's like, how do you go that extra 10 miles that actually, that gets people to want to watch your movie when they can just turn on Euphoria and not watch the movie, or they can turn on, Yellowstone. And, I mean, it's just like, at the end of the day, you have to be so much more clever today. And you have to have that attention to detail today And the storytelling has to be there today more so than it was in the 80s and 90s.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. Well, we're definitely excited to see what comes next for you, man. And we're stoked for you. We're proud of you, man. Like I'm excited to hear the rest of this album, to see the films that are coming out, everything, dude. It's an honor to have you on. It's a pleasure, man. We always enjoy your company.
Oh yeah, thank y'all so much. I appreciate it. Thank y'all so much for having me on the show.
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure, man. I'm so grateful to get some time with you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed the video.
And subscribe and hit the bell for a whole lot more to come.
Thanks for tuning in to Studio 22.